bits, if you might have seen. Those bits of 8 bits, right? Those bits were actually able to tell that computer to perform operations really quickly, right? Instead of taking everything in sort of decimals, they come up with the idea that we can make computer understand what are bits. What are these? Basically 1 0. And they thought that if we make computer understand what are these 1 0, or if we just make a foundation of a computer on the 1 0 format, like on the binary digits, in such way we can able to perform much more efficiently the operations with the help of computer, which on the other hand a human cannot able to understand that quickly, right? If you tell a human to tell me the answer of this, it might take him a lot of time to understand, right? He might need to perform certain operation. But for the, on the other hand, this is not that difficult. It can give the answers really, really quickly. So I hope you understood that. So okay, let's move. Then after these, like as a Fortran is a language that was very difficult to understand. It was close to writing the bits. It was very close to that. Like your language was very close to writing bits. So it was very difficult or complex to understand, right? Then conventionally in 1990s, we come up with a language which known as C. Now C as a language was developed in Bell Labs. Bell Laboratory. Like the same Bell Labs is also the foundation of C++ as a language, right? So let's move on there and then see how the things do work there. Also, one more thing I also needed to give you a heads up is like the functionality of computer. How computer actually internally understand whatever instruction you are giving, and how does it perform the output. Okay, so if you might be curious and if you might have seen your CPU like in your maybe school days or somewhere, you might know that the CPU has inside of the CPU has something known as hard drive. Okay, I'm just calling it a floppy disk hard drive. This is okay. Don't go with my drawings. It's not that great. This is my hard drive. Okay, and then you might have seen some RAM in this format. This is my RAM. Okay, and then we do have let's say this there is something known as register. If you might know, register is very less in computers. Can help to perform operation quickly. Now, how these things are like integrated with each other and able to perform the operation, right? You might have, if you might have gone through operating system as your lecture, so that is where you will understand these concepts. So what is happening is the operating system actually handles all these stuff, all the resources, all the hardware resources of your computer, and try to map it with the requirements of a software. Okay, so these are like hardware resources. So there is a software only build this OS. OS is nothing but a system software. So they ran some sort of application they built. So on top of what operating system do is whenever it gets, let's say some request, okay, some request. Let's say today you got a music app request. Okay, let me. I'm not able to write it perfectly. So request. Let's say I got today music request. Music application, right? So what operating system will do? It will check. many hardware resources are free. Your music stored in your hard drive, right? Your sorry, hard basically your uh, secondary storage. So it will go there. It will check for the music app, right? It will try to run it and then try to search it favorite music. And then what it will transfer that app to the RAM, to the RAM. You have one more thing. That's where logic is main from the will go to this arithmetic logical unit and that execute. Once that is executed, that is actually in the running state. So all of that will be the part of this RAM, right? So whenever you start something in your phone, okay, let's say you have started some Facebook app or WhatsApp app, all of that is actually going, all the resources of that app, all the memory of that app is actually going to this RAM, okay, so that it will get a faster access. And then from there it goes to the arithmetic logical unit where the actual, if you, let's say you are today seeing someone's status or you want to communicate with someone, so that will happen with this arithmetic logical unit, right? So that is the whole flow, right? I just wanted to give you a heads up, okay? So yeah, so okay, I think now we are good to start with our ppts. So let's, we are having a go for C. Have any sort of doubts, and at the moment I do not have the access to your chats. So if you have any sort of doubts, just try to raise your hand. I will get a notification, and then from there I can come back and check your query. Okay, thanks. So let's start with this. We will come to this slide later on at the end. Okay. Okay. Let's just see how computer understand a code. Okay. So let's say you have written some source code, which is nothing but some sort of coding which you have done. Then what will happen? The compiler basically converts that source code into the machine level code. That's what we have seen in the 1010 format, right? Those one zeros in the computer. That code by or as a programmer, and then it will try to compile it using application onto our console, right? Trying to make some changes. Do yeah, I hope clear. Say we this one is, yeah, stop me. Let's move on. Okay, let's just see some of the theoretical concepts like theory or some history of your C++ as a language. And then from the next lecture, we will try to start with the heads-on. Okay, so C++ is nothing but a multi-paradigm programming language. So C++, we call it a multi-paradigm is why is because it supports both. It supports object-oriented programming as well and simple procedural programming language concepts as well, right? Since it is developed as an extension to C as a language, that the capability to even perform operations that were possible in C as a language, right? So C++ is a language of its own kind, which even if tomorrow you do not want to, let's say, write object-oriented programming concepts, which we will see, like, do not worry like too much since we have not seen. Just see it's basically a combination of some entities and their relationships, right? We call them objects, right? So we'll see on to that, don't we? So basically, C++ as a language has a capability to perform both the things. Even if you do not know oops tomorrow, let's say, and then you want to code, you can still start with C++ as a language. You do not have that mandatory thing, which is the case with Java, right? Java as a language is a pure object-oriented programming language. If you see a main syntax, from there only you will understand that the Java as a language always prefer someone who knows object-oriented programming, but that is not the case with the C++ as a language. Okay, so yeah, that is the thing. And this language is actually made in 1983 at the same Bell Labs, right? C++ is nothing but an extension of C programming, and the programs written in C can run in C++ compiler as well. Since these two languages are very correlated to each other, whatever you have or wanted to perform using C as a language, you can also do it in a C++ language, right? Or you can also run a C code in the C++ compiler. That will not give you any sort of issue. So the development of C++ actually began 4 years before its release. It did not start with the name C++, rather its first name was C with extensions, right? I might have missed it here. It was C with extensions. Okay, so yeah, that is the one thing. So this is like just a brief history. You do not have to remember this. Just understand it for a moment. Like just take this as abstract knowledge. It's not that important, but maybe in college they might ask like what is history and all. Otherwise, not all interviewers will ask you that much. So yeah. Okay, let's move on. Now we have a difference between C and C++. We will come on to this slide as well later on. This is also a very late part of it. I've just kept it in order, but I felt that this can be taught a lot after. So yeah, let's start with this applications of C++. So as a C++ as a language, why actually we code in like a language which is C++? If we do have very simple and very powerful language such as Python, right? Python syntax you might have seen, it's very easy, very simple. You can code in Python in a day, right? You can start coding today and then you won't even feel that much of stress coding it up. It is very easier to understand. I also myself started with Python as a language, but then I will also share you my story why I shifted to C++. There are some reasons. C++ basically is very close to your low level hardware, right? It's very built on top of your computer, right? So since it is very close to your computer resources or your computer hardware, it can give you that higher, it gives you that higher uh, flexibility, you can say, or the higher power, okay, to perform operations really quickly. Right? With other languages such as high level, high end languages like Python, Java, PHP, or JavaScript, you can't do that efficiently. Since it is very closer to the computer's hardware, it is very efficient and fast, right? And that is the reason why this language is also used to build operating systems. Why we do have a GUI based applications also built on the past. So, but what do we mean by a GUI based applications? Those applications which you wanted to perform operations very frequently and fastly. You do not care a lot about a user interface, rather you care a lot about performance, right? So in such cases, C++ language comes into picture. You might have seen some browsers, right? Internet Explorer, right? Those very fast and very famous browsers which were there in the like last to last decade.